moly, folks, we made it through the year of 2020. It's been a wild one. It's been bonkers. I hope you're not too hungover after the festivities. I know the trend right now is to say that, wow, 2020 was such an awful year. Oh my god, it's finally done, which, yeah, 2020's finally done, but you know what? I'm not gonna go with that trend. I actually thought 2020 wasn't half bad. I had a lot of really cool things happen this year. So, yeah, sorry, not sorry that I'm not spewing over the fact that apparently this year is awful, but you know how it is. My channel, my rules, I do what I want. Like a grown-ass man, I am drinking Sprite, because like all of you, I saw those really god-awful Sprite commercials and went, yeah, I just need to drink that. This year, though, I will say, didn't have enough movie releases, in my opinion, to accurately do a top 10 list. So, I'm doing it a little differently this year. I'm going to be doing a top 5 movies of 2020, though real fast, I will give some major shout-outs and props to Unhinged, starring Fat Angry Russell Crowe. That's pretty much the movie, but it was more entertaining than I thought it would be. Yeah, I'm still mad about Bloodshot. Alright, so, let's get to the point. What are the top 5? Now, as you guys know, this list is my opinion, and, so if you disagree, that's fine. If you agree, wonderful. So, without further ado, let's start with number 5. We have Fat Man. I didn't know what to think going into Fat Man, and it ended up being a whole lot of fun, and yeah, I don't regret the movie. It is a simple premise, it is a gritty, sort of realistic, and kind of funny take on Santa Claus, and they actually did something different. It wasn't a cliched Christmas movie by any sense of the word, and I actually wasn't going to put it on the list originally, and then all of a sudden I noticed I watched the movie like 6 or 7 times in the span of 2 weeks, and I went, you know, if a movie can do that to me, it deserves to be on the list. So number 5 goes to you, Fat Man. Good job. At number 4, we have our blue friend, Sonic the Hedgehog himself. And Sonic the Hedgehog is, in my opinion, the best video game movie ever made. It actually is a solid family movie, and, you know, a massive legacy of the memes of that terrifying other Sonic. They listened to the fans. It got my respect. And it's one of the only movies that I don't want to punch Jim Carrey in the face on. And I gotta say, it was a fun movie, and I've watched it more times than I care to admit. At number 3, we have The Invisible Man. The Invisible Man was actually the last movie I saw in theaters before everything got shut down. And I went, well, you know, maybe this movie will be worth watching. And I watched it, and it was one of the strongest horror films I'd seen in a while. They really, really got down to the nitty-gritty of just feeling uncomfortable that there might be somebody in that room that is invisible. And it reminded me of a film I'm actually not a fan of, but it reminded me of what I wanted Paranormal Activity to be. This film, just the way certain things move, or it's so unsettling. Invisible Man is one of those horror films that stayed with me, like It Follows or Sinister, where I'm like, I feel something after that film, and it really takes a look at domestic violence, and I'm like, wow, we got some real world issues being addressed in The Invisible Man. I love the film, and everybody I've shown it to has said, holy crap, that was actually good. So good on you, Invisible Man. You earned the number 3 spot. Now number 2 and 1 honestly can be interchangeable. I love them both. But number 2, I have to say, it started the year off with a bang. Underwater. Underwater was one of those films that it made me uncomfortable, and it gave me that vibe of Gravity, where you just feel so lost and so stuck in that dark void. What happens in the end, I was like, holy crap, they actually made this. And it blew my mind, and it was a pulse-pounding, intense ride from beginning to end. And I don't get why some critics shit on this movie. And it's one of those things that I feel like there's a disconnect between critics and audiences, and that's what I've always said, frankly, is that a lot of these people just seem to be out of touch, because everybody I talk to seems to love this film. There's critics who are like, oh, that is not cinema! And so I have to say, no, Underwater's freaking great. And it's, I think, the only movie I actually like Kristen Stewart in. So, hey, good job, Underwater. Alright, guys, gals, and everything in between, here we are, the #1 pick, the big bambino, the big schlamboozle, whatever you want to call it. Hang on, let me take a sip of Sprite while we wait on the just pulse-pounding tension of what I'm going to say. And no, it's not Tremors, Shrieker Island. Alright, guys, gals, and everything in between, the #1 spot, you earned it, they took risks, the risks paid off, and they made a spectacular film. Color Out of Space. Color Out of Space is one of the only direct adaptations of an H.P. Lovecraft story, and they pulled it off. They took H.P. Lovecraft's story, put it in modern day. Richard Stanley did an amazing job directing it. It was a bold, weird, experimental type film, and it was incredible. I love this film from beginning to end because they didn't try and commercialize H.P. Lovecraft. Whereas Underwater kind of did with their Lovecraftian elements. H.P. Lovecraft was just directly adapted, put in modern day for Color Out of Space. And it was a bold move, and it is an incredible masterpiece. The cinematography and visual effects are beautiful. And it's horrifyingly beautiful, which is what Lovecraft can describe. And you really understand why Lovecraft's work is so special to everybody who's a fan, myself included, is because he never writes anything normal. He does it in his own way that's unique. And Richard Stanley, as a director, basically directed how Lovecraft would have directed a film. And it's beautiful, it's disturbing, it's wonderful, and I can't wait to see, because they are doing sequels to Color Out of Space, well, more H.P. Lovecraft adaptations in the same universe. And I'm so excited to see that, because if Richard Stanley is any indication, it means they're taking it seriously, they're respecting the source material, and it's one of the films that kept me thinking throughout the year, that was kind of the standard I wanted them to hit, because it was a movie that took risks. And in a year like 2020, they took some bold risks, and I think it gave them a tactical advantage, because there were less movies out and things like that. So I loved it. I have watched this film about once a week since it came out, and I've loved every second of it. It's not gotten old for me. So Color Out of Space rightfully earns the #1 spot. Alright, guys, gals, and everything in between, what movies were kind of a highlight for you this year? Do you like my list? Are there any films on this list that you haven't seen that now you want to go see? Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that bell thingy, because that's what we're all said to do now, or, well, what the hip kids are doing. Don't forget to like and subscribe, got plenty more videos coming to you. Love you guys.